So welcome everybody. So good to connect with you on conversations. A time where I catch up with influencers, I catch up with achievers, I catch up with pioneers, and most importantly, I catch up with friends. For today's conversation, I have the pleasure of having Girish Ramdas. He is the CEO and co-founder of Magzter, which is the world's largest digital library. It's the Netflix of digital reading, if you may. These numbers I share with you require to be updated, but even if you listen to these numbers, they are mind blowing. 8,000 plus magazines, 3,400 plus publishers, 50 languages, more than 175 countries. This was a company founded in 2011 with Girish and his partner Vijay Kumar Radhakrishnan in 2014, okay, and this is like 6 years back. Magzter had 18 million downloads, 750,000 downloads every month, 750,000 downloads every month. In the same year, that is 2014, Girish and his partner were recognized as Fortune's under 40 best entrepreneurs. Net, super achiever. Girish, so good to have you on this conversation.
Thank you, Rajiv. It's great to be here.
So even as I start, I must bring out my grouse to you, okay? There's lots of similarities and differences. The similarities are that we hail from the same city, Madras, Chennai as they call it today, but Madras is what I fondly remember it to be. We studied in the same school, and a brilliant school at that, Don Bosco, Egmore. We were classmates, Girish. We even chose French, and I think that's how we became classmates. But I guess that's where the similarities end, right? I admired you, Girish, but I also resented you, okay?
Oh, no. What is that?
let me tell you why. I admired you because of your all-round excellence. I mean, you were great when it came to academics, brilliant sports person, tennis, national level shooter, pretty good in every sport that you actually played. Right? I think even in sports, the annual sports that used to happen, you used to win several medals, if I'm not mistaken.
Those were the days.
And I resented you. You know why? Because you became the benchmark, right? All the teachers would keep you as the gold standard, so to speak. And if that benchmark didn't end at school, which was 9 to 3:30 or something of that sort, it continued at home as well. Okay, so pretty much resented you for that one. As for me, I was the benchmark of all that you're not supposed to be. Notorious, okay, but that's just on the lighter side, right? But I really want to appreciate you, admire you for what you've done and for where you are, Girish. So let me start by saying school, Don Bosco, Egmore. As far as we are concerned, who study there, people accuse us of having a bias in our mind that we think that Don Bosco is the best and nothing else was the best. But I don't think there was a bias. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it was there in our anthem, right? Don Bosco best, never will rest.
Correct.
So I think that was there in the school anthem, and it was kind of in our DNA that we should excel, we should really try our best. And I guess it's all about, what you want to do with your life. School only gives you a kind of a direction, and then it's up to you to decide what you want to do, I guess. So school was awesome. It was really a great time for all of us. I think all my closest friends are from school, even now, after, 40 plus years. Even I've got friends from preschool who are still my school. I don't know if you remember Rohit Kurian.
Yeah, of course.
He and I joined preschool together, and we're still buddies even now.
Preschool would mean what? Before JKG?
Before JKG, yeah. Okay. So it was, I mean, 44-year type friendships. It's been awesome.
Oh, that's good. And if you had to pick up a couple of memories from school, what would they be?
Oh, lots and lots of memories. I mean, most of school memories have been with like friends. I remember, for example, your mom used to come and make sure that I eat, right? So it was like one of those things. If I see your mom coming, very tall lady, very, regal when she walks in, when we're all eating, and I'll be the worst eater of them all. And she'll look at me and say, "You better eat." And then whenever I felt like I should not, I mean, hungry or something, I remember your mom. So things like that. There were a lot of these things which you relate to school and those times. Of course, a lot of great memories, a lot of scary times as well. But it was overall fun.
Awesome. So, Girish, school, college, you studied in two great institutions, right? You studied in Don Bosco. You went on to graduate from Anna University, which is one of those hallmarks in terms of educational institutions, right? What's kind of left a lasting impression on you?
I think the previous question kind of answered it. I think it was school, absolutely. College was fun, but it was more kind of 4 years of different kind of backgrounds, people from all over the country, actually, from all over the place, and you get little time to interact with everyone. So I've got some great friends and friendships. I think school and college, according to me, gives you a great time to make friends. Right?
Mhm.
I sometimes tell other parents and kids that 14 years of school is actually like a vanavas. So
Mhm.
which means you're sending your kids off to doing 14 years of going to be in some kind of a forest because you don't want to handle it,
Mhm.
right? So, but I think the only thing you learn out of school is how to make friends and keep them. The rest
Right,
of it you can actually get from a book. Of course, some of the teachers in school were excellent. So it's a mixed bag, but I still think that school over college.
right. Awesome. Uh, your dad was a legendary personality, right? A man of impeccable integrity, a man of excellence as well, right? I mean, all the difficult postings he was given, whether it was a posting outside of Chennai in a national level posting or even in Chennai. So I'm sure he must have influenced you big time.
Yeah, yeah. I think he had a couple of plus and minus type influences. I think mostly plus, but his influences, for example, anyone who knew him well knew that he kind of will get anything done if it's the right thing to do. Right.
Mhm.
So for him, everything was about doing the right thing, being on time, being punctual, right? And if, for example, we came late for some meeting or something by any chance, he would tell the others in the room saying, "Meet my wife's children or my wife's son," right? He
Mhm.
wouldn't even acknowledge that we are his kids. So he would
Mhm.
go up to that level. And I mean, there was a million things to learn from him on a daily basis. We, of course, also resented him
Mhm.
as an honest person. We thought that's a bad thing to be, right? A lot of his colleagues we would see having their kids having fancy televisions at home, and they had everything. We at home had almost nothing.
Right.
So at that time, as a kid, as growing up, we used to resent the fact that why is this guy being so honest, and there are people making crores of rupees from contracts and stuff, being dishonest, but he was like very upright and said, let me do the right thing. So today we realize that that was the right thing to do, but
Right.
then at that time it was like you said, no, you resented me because I did well,
I
like
was
that.
just
We
pulling your leg,
resented him.
bro. I was just pulling your leg.
So we were like, oh God, this man is like,
Uh,
how do we live with him? And we used to tell my mom she needs multiple medals and awards for living with my dad. But then actually it turned out that we had lots to learn.
So he was a disciplinarian, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he was a perfectionist, disciplinarian, and for a person who came from a Tamil medium school, which I knew only
Oh, I didn't know
after he
this.
passed away.
Oh,
Even
I
I
didn't
didn't
know
know
this.
this all my life. He came from a Tamil medium school. His English was better than the Queen of England. I can
Mm,
guarantee that. Right.
mm,
So it is all about hard work, perseverance, things that we now realize are so important. But it was something that he took in his stride on like a day-to-day life.
yeah. So I must tell the viewers who we're talking about. Girish's dad, the late C.N. Ramdas, one towering IAS personality, held several portfolios, and whatever he did, he excelled. He somehow got to be given the difficult portfolios, I'm guessing because people above him realized that he would get the job done. But Girish, I find that hard to believe because I saw Uncle in every PTM. He would be there. I've noticed him standing even in the line, waiting to meet the teachers.
So he actually his I think one part of his success would be my mom. because she would also push him to do these things.
Right.
I left to him on his own. He's a workaholic, right? For example, in the some 1980s, he was a special officer of Corporation of Chennai, and like the 2016 floods, we had huge floods in Chennai. That was
Right.
like a thing that happens once in so many years. And I remember he went by boat to Ripon Building, which was his office, and he was
Mm-hmm.
there for a week. He
Mm-hmm.
never came home,
Oh
right? So he
man.
was literally sequestered in his own office by himself
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that he would be hands-on
Right.
and coordinating things. I mean, I've been with him on a couple of these occasions. Post 12th standard exam, we had nothing to do, and at the same time, there was this huge floods in south of India near Nagapattinam and all. So literally, we realized that in the TV there was a news which came saying the breaking news kind of thing in 1994, I believe, 1990, no, 92, 94, something like that, saying that one of the pieces that was there was Mr. Ramdas has now rushed to the spot for disaster management. But we were watching the TV at home in Chennai.
Mm.
So they'd already pre-announced that he is gone while he was not even gone. So
Okay.
literally he had to call the CM's office and say, you know what, I just saw this news that I'm already gone, but I've not got any orders. And
Right.
literally at about 2 a.m. that morning, he and I, and of course the drivers, took the car and drove to Nagapattinam, which normally takes about 7 to 8 hours. We took
Mm-hmm.
about 26 hours to get there because it was the bridges were broken,
Broken.
the
Mm.
roads were covered with trees fallen.
Mm.
Literally, we then had to arrange a truck with people to cut with axes and literally make our way to
Right.
the affected areas. It was like really a learning experience for me, but for
Yeah.
him, it was like all in a day's work.
Days work. And I noticed that Gautam, your brother, also got himself involved in the Chennai floods that you mentioned, 2016, in terms of rescue. Wasn't that
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I think he's kind of one of those guys who wants to also go and do that. He wants to be in the forefront, right? I don't mind sitting a little behind and getting someone else to kind of get it done, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he is fully hands-on. He loves to, he'll make a raft. He will take that and he will go to the go and kind of save people's lives. I
Right.
most probably be the guy who hires 5 people to do that, right?
He's hands
And
on.
manage them so that I can manage more such people to save more lives. But he wants to just be there, be a first responder,
Mm-hmm.
and do that. That's kind of two different personalities, I guess.
Awesome. So I kind of heard that once you passed out of Anna University campus interview, everybody wants is preparing hard for a campus interview. Normally, that's how it works. Everybody is eager because this is your moment of truth, literally, because all your investment on education. Now's the time to encash. Okay, so you walk into this interview, and if I'm not mistaken, it's TCS,
Yep.
which which I mean today is still a large organization, one of the largest in this part of the world. Uh, and you get there, and instead of impressing the people there, you kind of answered very radically. They said, "Hey, what are your goals?" And you said something like, "I want to set up a company as large as TCS." And this was, I think, 96, 90,
Yep.
96.
It
Yeah.
was 96. So that is interesting because everyone from engineering college wanted to get a job, right? So I also said, okay, if everyone's applying, might as well I also apply. And they had some topics that they could question you upon. So they had about 10 topics, all related to, advanced engineering and this. And there was 11th one called others. So then I chose others, first of all. So everyone had gone and learned all those 10 topics. And what if they asked one of the topics and stuff like that that I didn't learn? So everyone learned all the 10 topics and they chose one. So I said, you know what, let me not really do that. Let me go for the 11th option. There was one. So I took others. And basically what I decided was I used to read Tom Clancy books,
Mhm.
right? So all these, at that time, 96, internet was just new. So the topic that I chose was like cyber warfare, right?
Mhm.
Which I believe at the time the interviewers had no idea about.
Right.
So I went into this interview and then I had kind of explained to them about this concept of cyber warfare and how the internet is going to be the next big thing. And they were like, whatever, whatever, because they didn't get it. And then they asked me the usual questions. What are your goals? What do you see yourself doing 5 years from now and all that? So I said, when they asked, what is your goal from 5 years from now? I said, I want to start a software company like TCS and maybe grow bigger than TCS. So I kind of in 2000, this was 96, and in 2000 I actually did that.
No, we'll,
not
we'll
from
get there,
information.
Girish. We'll get there. But tell me, what was the reaction of those guys who were interviewing you?
They gave me the job.
They did?
Yeah, they gave me the job. I got, and all these guys who learned all the 10 subjects, many of them didn't get the job. So I did get that job offer. It was 10,000 rupees a month.
Right.
It was pretty awesome, except that I didn't take the offer, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore I've gone in this path.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, a couple of my friends from that day are still with TCS. Even now, they're very senior in TCS, but they've chose to stay with one thing, and that's their choice.
Yeah. So 1996, 10,000 rupees is quite a princely sum of money, especially when you're starting a career.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that was good. So let me ask you this question, right? You've set up other businesses as well, ranging from poultry farming to setting up your own .com company, setting up your own publication, that too, in terms of cine, which is galata.com. You did something with Tamil cinema, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So three very distinct businesses before you ultimately reached Magzter. And I somehow have it in me that I don't think Magzter will be your only business. I think many more businesses will come out of you, right? But tell me, so you always had this entrepreneurial streak in you?
So I think my entrepreneurial streak, I think, came from more a necessity. I think, right? You have this very honest, like I said, honest IAS officer father, who's very radically doing the right thing all the time, and there's no money at home for things otherwise. Like I said, my first job offer was 10,000 rupees salary. His retirement salary was 8,000 rupees plus TA and DA,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was something that you can't even imagine. Right now, an office boy gets 20,000, 15,000, right? So a senior most guy is getting only 8,000 rupees at the point of retirement. So that is, unless you're in it, you won't understand. Right? So we were in it. And then for us, everything was like a big deal in terms of whether petrol was a thing, whether you make phone calls, you can't afford to make too many calls. Luckily, those days, if you remember, one call was, even if you speak for 2 hours, it's only 1 rupee.
Correct.
Right? So it was not like per pulse or something. So there were a lot
Yeah.
of things we benefited those days, but most of the things was necessity driven. So when I was a kid itself, maybe I was a 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, I realized that when I ask for money, I'm not getting. So I thought, well, let me ask in a different way. So I used to see my dad, he used to be very meticulous about polishing his own shoes. And they used to be like super like spit polish. You can see your face kind of polish. And he would do it every day. He would wear white and white and his black shoes will be impeccably polished. So I told him, why are you doing that? You're the senior, IAS officer and, everyone is falling and fawning all over you. Why don't you give it to me? I mean, I didn't know it was called outsourcing, but I told him, give it to me and you pay me for it. So he used to give me like 1 rupee.
So what was the reaction when you told him, when you made the offer?
He actually he was amused initially. And then he thought, okay, might as well encourage this guy to do something, because he always thought that you have to get your hands down and dirty and
Right.
get it done. And if I was coming out myself and saying, I'm going to polish your shoes, he thought it's maybe a learning thing, right? So,
Right.
and he gave me 1 rupee for polishing. So that is how I started. And I thought, hey, this is cool. So I started saving that money, right? And then over time, we were getting a few rupees extra from my mom to spend. So this was kind of an augmented. So I was the richest one, or I was earning more than my brother, right? So he was my elder brother. So if I was getting more money than him, that gave me some thrill. So it was, you need to enjoy what you're doing. You need to have a thrill. So that's how it started. Then by 12th standard, like Rohit Kurian, Abraham, Verghese, and me started this event management company called Graphics. So those days, again, there was no graphics was Girish, Rohit, Abraham, but it sounded like graphics. So now we are trying to make, of course, my kids these days think that these are all puke-worthy names, right? Because they think these are all uncle names that you came up with. But in 11th grade, it was awesome. And that exactly the year of 11th standard, we had something called DJs Unlimited. We had a war of the DJs.
Yeah, I
This was
remember
all
those.
in 1990, 91.
And
Right?
taking me back to the past, nostalgia at its best.
So we had a blast doing it, and we earned a few lakh rupees that year.
Wow.
Right. So, and of course, we kind of, I don't know where that money went, but I think we really spent it all. But that year, I literally told my father, I said, you don't have to pay me anymore for anything, because no, I earn more money than you. So that kind of sparked me saying, business may be a good thing. Right. So we started realizing it's kind of an evolution. And
Right.
then by 1996, when I finished my college, there's this friend of ours who was in this poultry business, right? So he decided he wanted to do some integration. So he had a poultry farm, but he used to buy the eggs from somewhere and the chicks from somewhere. So it was like kind of not an integrated thing. So that's what I realized. So then I said, okay, you have this farm. So why don't I set up an unit for going backward integration? And
Right.
after my engineering college, I actually helped him to make that entire supply chain. Of course, these days I know the words supply
You didn't
chain
know
and all
what you
that.
were doing, right?
I didn't know
So
what I was
now,
doing.
so now you know the terminologies, right?
I know that, yeah, I know the jargon now, but at that time
Yeah.
I told him that you need to, own the entire process.
Process.
So from the eggs to the chicks to the birds to even set up retail stores. So we actually set up in 1996, 97 retail store called Chubby Chicks. So
Oh
everyone
wow,
asked me,
where
so
was
what
this?
business are you doing? It was in
Ananaga.
Chennai. No, we had about 10 stores across
That would have been an
Chennai.
amusing answer, right? What are you doing now?
Yeah, so I always used to be very amused by anyone say, so what do you do? I said, oh, I'm into chicks. So, right, and that was before getting married, so it was very convenient to use such lines, and it was fun. So
Yeah.
it was actually it worked out for a point, but then that business was a fully cash business.
Right.
This whole poultry and livestock is a complete cash business. Though what I had created was fully automated kind of thing, for which again the interesting story is I had to go to about 22 banks
Yeah.
and I didn't get a loan. Nobody gave me a loan. And everyone told me, go and ask your father. If he makes a phone call, you'll get a loan. So I said, no, I don't want to go down that path. So I did it on my own and I almost failed. So
Mhm.
22 banks later, I went to an obscure bank called MCC Bank. Now it's called CCC Bank. It's a Madras Central Cooperative Bank. And they literally on the day that I landed up to meet their CEO, had increased their limits from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs.
Mm.
And then
And you had
I
no
was
clue about that.
I had no idea. And literally, I was applying for 20 lakhs when if I had gone the previous day, they would have rejected. And
Right.
they said, oh, today onwards, we are actually increased our limit to 20 lakhs. And they gave me a loan. It took about a
Mhm.
month to get all the paperwork done. And then it was something that is shocking, right?
Right.
Because all the good, I mean, reputed banks all said this is a bad idea, this won't work, this is not going to happen. And some other guy out of the blue believed that this could be the right thing to do. And within 3 years, I repaid the bank. Right. So in
Wow.
96, 97, I took the loan. It was I think, a 10-year loan kind of thing. So by the business was flourishing. But the problem was it is completely a cash business. So
Mm.
every week I would get 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs in cash coming to my house. And even though my dad had retired by then, he hates this whole cash business. Right. Even though it's an accounted cash, he doesn't want to have cash around the place. So then over time, I said, you know what, there's a big stress going on
Mm.
with this. So I gave that unit for lease to
Mhm.
another company.
Right.
So I used to get lease rentals rather than, have the hassle of running the business.
Right.
And of course, cut the long story short, the benefit from that entire experience was, other than the learning, is that cost me about maybe a couple of lakhs to buy the land. And then I got the loan. And today that land is worth about 100 crores. Right? So, so I think it's you don't really plan for a lot of these things. You keep doing what you're doing, and then I think it'll happen as it happens.
Wow, that's
Right?
awesome. Yeah, so
So
I pick up a lot of lessons from that, Girish. One is from the shoe polishing story is don't look down on any task. Instead, identify opportunities from your event management situation. While most of us were partying around, you chose to create the party and make a business out of it, right? So, which is awesome. The poultry thing, which you were thinking futuristically about the entire supply chain and how do you get it automated, and the perseverance to go to about 20 odd banks and not give up even after the 19th bank said, hey, not happening. You were able to do that. And the beauty of execution and implementation, right? A 10-year loan you're able to close out in 3 years. Fantastic lessons for everybody who's actually listening, right? So then you go on to create Galata, which is a journal, a magazine based kind of a thing, hard copy based. Then you decide to digitize that, and tell us about the situation, right? You didn't do the easy thing. You did the difficult thing, which is to set shop at New York. So take us through that process, and how did that happen?
When we actually, this whole Magzter idea came about, again, like I said, in an organic manner. So we had our own, like you said, Galata.com. And then we launched our own print magazine, Galata Cinema Magazine, in 2007. And at the end of 2007 and 2008, one of these Apple evangelists had met our software team and said, "Hey, we've got these things called apps. So why don't you create apps?" And this is 2008, right? There was only Angry Birds had just started. Nobody had heard about apps. So at that time, my current co-founder used to be the CTO of our software company, Vijay. So he had come back from Bangalore and said, "Hey, there's this thing called apps. So why don't we do this apps?" And then we were like, "Do we even get into this, completely new area?" And then we took a chance. We said, "Okay, we'll set up a small team." And in 2008-9, we really created many of the content apps that you might be hearing of, which is we created an app for AR Rahman, we created an app for Sony Music, we created an app for newspapers. Then we said, why don't we create an app for our own magazine? Right. So we had one of the first magazines for iPhone. I mean, one of the first apps for a magazine on iPhone in the world was for Galata magazine on iPhone. I think it was iPhone 2 or 3, right? And then in 2010, Steve Jobs come on stage and shows the most glossy looking Condé Nast and magazine on his newly launched iPad in 2010. I think this year is the 10th year of the iPad. So we were watching that live online, and we said, "Hey, what is this amazing thing? Why from phone? Why don't we make an app for the iPad?" And so we had to create an iPad app, and that came out really well. And within a year of that iPad app, we had 100,000 downloads for Galata magazine. So we were like, "Wow, for one magazine that not everyone heard of, if you can get 100,000 downloads, why don't we create for others?" So it became a business. So one of our business divisions doing services was doing apps. So we were making tons of money making apps. And then at that time, literally, while we were walking around the Annanagar Park, literally Vijay and I were thinking, what are the product that we can create? So I said, enough of services business. We're doing it for so many years. Let's get into product. So we then came up with the fact that I said, let's think of, we have the technology, the technical expertise of creating apps. We know about magazine business, content business. So why don't we create an app for magazine industry? So then we came back to my partner at that time, and even now, CR Venkatesh, who he and I started Galata and .com Info way back in 2000. So he and I sat on it and said, this needs somebody to full-time dedicate towards this. So we were two business partners discussing kind of divide our empires, where he will continue to do the software part. And then this completely new idea, which is at the time we didn't have the name Magzter, but the new idea, somebody has to kind of own it and run it.
Right.
So he and I said, he owns 50% of this, I own 50% of that. You manage that, I manage this. So it was a perfect harmony, right? And even after 20 years of working together, he's still my business partner. And I think that's very important to have the right partners.
Correct.
As well. Right? So it's not about just creating a business, or you need good co-founders. So
tell me, Girish, I'll just butt in here. Could
Yeah.
you have done it alone? The point I'm getting to is the importance of collaboration, right? Could you have done it alone?
So I think knowing me, I would have done anything. Like I said, anything is possible. Anything is possible alone. But I think all through my life, I've been seeing that with the right collaboration, right partners is the best solution. Right? Because sometimes uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. Literally is something that if you're only one guy or one person with nobody to fall back upon or discuss or collaborate, you end up having more issues than others. I met a lot of top fortune type CEOs who, many of them have this problem saying, I'm the boss and I have nobody to talk to.
Right.
So in my case, I've got multiple partners who are great guys, right? Whether it's Vijay or CR Venkatesh or others, who are always, because I always am a guy who talks to others and try to get their advice. Right? It's not like my way or the highway. Of course, my kids may defer to that, disagree to that, but I think so. So the way we went about was in an organic way. We launched our own app, and then we started making money on that. And then we said, let's create the single container app, which all magazines from all over the world can come on board, like an aggregator model. And at that time, there was no Netflix. Nobody had heard of all this aggregation model, right?
So Magzter actually came before Netflix.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
So So, but what happened was Netflix came, they came before us as a place to get, they were trying to beat Blockbuster,
Mm.
right? They were trying to fight the VHS and VCR
Mm.
model well before us. But when we talk about aggregation, like what we are doing in terms of content, I think we started before. But again, their model of watch all you can, right, is something that revolutionized video watching. That was before us.
Right.
So we
Right.
kind of watched what Netflix did, and then we made Magzter Gold, which is our read all you can. So going back to your question about New York and stuff like that. So when we had all these ideas and we said
Right.
make a product, we said that if we have to get all the top publishers of the world, we cannot be like in Chennai,
Mm.
right? So we have to go global. So that
Right.
was the outlook. Because as a consumer, we put ourselves in the shoes of consumer. We all read magazines. So we read Indian magazines, we read international magazines as well. So just having local content doesn't help in this magazine space. People want magazines from all over the world. So therefore we said, you know what, to get that credibility, right, and to meet the US publishers where that's, I mean, New York is the publishing hub of the
Hub.
world.
Mm.
So we said we need to set up in the US. So we literally took bag and baggage and landed up in New York. It was literally in this month of April, May. It was freezing, snow everywhere.
Which year?
It was 2011,
2011. Okay.
right? So we officially launched Magster June 16th, 2011.
Okay.
So we set up our office in April, and then literally had to me a lot of our friends helped. Like one of our classmates, Sunil Ryan, his house was literally the first unofficial slash address for Magster. Right,
Mm.
his house is next to Sunil, I mean, Sriram Daita's house in Jersey City. It was not New York, but it was just across the river, the Hudson River or Jersey City. But that's how it started, literally with like all of us collaborating, and we had great friends, and these are school friends, as you know.
Mm.
Everyone's always willing to help everyone, and that's something that I've seen, right? Especially school and college and friends, we should always keep helping. That's something
Right.
that I also learned from my father, saying, "Don't expect what is going to come back.
Mm.
Just keep helping
Right.
whoever you can, whether it's a guy who's dying, whether it's a king, queen of England. Just keep helping without
Mm.
expecting a return."
Mm.
Right? So that at that time I thought was very kind of a lame thing. He said, without expecting a return, why would I help you?
Right.
Right? But today, over time, we realize that you have to just do it, just keep helping everyone.
Yeah.
And he used to say in Tamil, Seha, Nandre Seha, Indre Seha.
Mm.
He says, do
Do it now.
good and do it today.
Yeah.
Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow. So that is something, all these are kind of learning.
Hey, but Girish, sorry, I'm just taking you off, right? Your dad, I thought, was Malayali.
He's actually born in Salem, but
Okay.
he's from a place called Puttur near Mangalore. So
Okay.
anyone asks him, so where are you from? He would ask you, do you know Aishwarya Rai? And everyone say, oh, of course we know Aishwarya Rai. He said, they'll ask him, are you related? He said, no, not yet. And her family is also from Puttur
Oh, okay.
in Mangalore. So we are all Mangaloreans
Okay.
from my father's side. My
Okay.
mom is from Kerala. So
Okay.
and I'm born and brought up in Madras. So I'm kind of southern integration type.
Right. Right. Sorry, I kind of disturbed your train of thought. You were saying.
Yeah. So I think that going to New York was eye-opening. One was, of course, meeting friends and getting their help, and they were all willing to help. Startup was not really something that was popular at that time. A lot of big multi-billion-dollar companies were startups we knew, but nobody we knew were actually setting up an international startup from India. So everything was brand new, setting up a company, setting up an account, meeting these bankers, trying to do all that. But finally, it worked out. It didn't work out the way we wanted it, meaning we thought our office, even now, is at One Rockefeller Plaza, New York. It's about in 1 mile radius of all the top 5 big publishers of the world.
Hmm.
You've got Time Inc., you've got Condé Nast, you've got Hearst, all in walking distance. So we thought by having an office there, we would be able to sign up these guys very easily. But it didn't happen. Nobody signed up with us. They're saying, who are these guys? Who are these Indians who are coming and talking to us? And for them, when an Indian comes in New York to meet you, they think you're a techie.
Right.
They say, okay, are you a vendor? They didn't realize we're creating this global platform, right, to kind of own the world of publishing and, and that kind of thing. So they kind of discounted us to some extent. They said, of course, this sounds good, this looks good, but come back to us when you're like much bigger. So, but that worked out for us when we decided then to go global. So when we
Hmm.
went to other countries and gave them our New York Rockefeller business card, they took us very seriously,
Oh,
right? So that worked out. So I don't know, we go with some plan and then something else happens. But I think if you keep persevering and doing the right thing, it eventually works out.
yeah, yeah. There's a line that I've been dwelling on for the recent past, and the line says something like this: "Life is lived forward but understood backwards," right? And that's a perfect example of
Absolutely.
right. So that's awesome. So then Magzter kind of kicked off doing really well. On the personal side, would I be fair in saying that Shakti is the power behind you? Shakti, your wife, is the power behind you.
Absolutely. I think it's in our name.
How's that partnership been?
Yeah, I think
17 years now? 17 years?
it's 20 going to be in July this year.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Okay.
going to be our 20th wedding anniversary. It's been up and down, but that's another thing. I remember my dad telling me from an old cigarette ad which he saw in the 1970s before he got married to my mom. It was a hoarding in New York or somewhere, which had a husband and wife both having a black eye each, right? So they've obviously been fighting, but it's just ad for a cigarette. So it says we fight, but we don't switch. So
Hmm.
it kind of, I
Great story.
realized that you can fight all you can or all you want, but be together. So their choice was the single cigarette. So the
Hmm.
advertising was towards the cigarette, but I think we can learn a lot from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So as being like even partnerships or marriage, it's the same. You need to communicate, right? Many times I've told her I hate her, she has hated me, right? But at the end of the day, I think we work well together. So I think like any other, it has to be a win-win situation. If it's win-win,
Absolutely.
everything can be spoken about or
Hmm.
spoken of. And I think it's been a great 20 years. I know her for more than 20 years now, but it's been a amazing ride. It seems like I just got married yesterday. So
Hmm. Awesome. So, I mean, talking about marriage, came across this line which said, in the first year, he spoke and she listened. In the second year, she spoke and he listened. The third year, both spoke and the neighbors listened, right? So that's what marriage does. Yeah. Awesome. So that's a great story. I mean, lots of insights that have actually come. So, I mean, you always had this. When I listen to the conversation, you seem to have that nuance of of identifying, visualizing something which is not and which is blind to everybody else. They're able to identify that opportunity and pursue it, which is amazing. So how do you do that, Girish? I mean, how does that come?
I think I use what I call common sense, or
Mm,
just, I mean, what you see is what you get kind of thing, right? So it's not like I'm clairvoyant or something. So, like I said, a lot of things are organic. We are only seeing now that it could have been a visionary idea, but for me, it was the next step in an evolution, right? So if you go in that way, you see a need and you go after it. Like
right.
even whether it was that, like you said, everyone's partying. Why don't we create the party? So everyone saw the fact that there's partying around, but nobody wanted to make money from that, right? So that was something that I've been doing all along,
Hmm.
right? But I think a lot of it also comes down to luck,
Hmm.
right? I don't know if I told you this before, but I've got this concept where if you see success as Mount Everest, right? To climb and reach the top of Mount Everest, assuming that's success in your mind. I'm just giving a metaphor, an example. 99% of that is luck. I'm giving disproportionate kind of weightage to luck. And
Hmm.
1% of that, I believe, is your 200% hard work.
Which
So
is
you need
very,
to,
very, very contrarian thought process, right? People will say 99% hard work and 1% luck. You've turned
yeah.
it around.
I've only seen this across the board when I've met a lot of supposedly successful people. When I've told them this idea, they're like a little apprehensive, saying that, you know what, why? And then when they go into it, they feel like shit. Yeah, I've been really lucky, man. They're like, whether it was Bill Gates with Microsoft, if he didn't get kicked out of IBM, that was his lucky time.
Hmm.
If IBM had taken his idea, by now there won't be no Microsoft. Right? He had the great idea, he had the implementation, he knew everything. But if that his bad luck was his luck,
Hmm.
they kicked him out, right? So similarly, we've seen this kind of across the board, and through millennia, people have been using things, superstitions and gods and prayers. What are they trying to do? They're trying to bring that 99 into 98 or 97 by external factors. right? But that doesn't really work out according to me. No kind of nothing other than hard work. But I believe that you have to put 200%, right? Everyone is
in
putting
that 1%. Huh?
just to make up that 1% is your 200%. So you have to keep doing that without your expectation of success, and then one day that will hit you and you will be super successful. But of course, that also comes with the other corollary which says fail fast, right? So do something. If it's not really working out, try your best, give it your best shot, and if you're failing, acknowledge it and move on, right? So
Right.
that's something that's very important to realize. And I think uh, success, failure, both are very important.
Right.
And I try to tell this to my kids, saying that it's okay to fail, right? And they're like looking at me because everyone around them wants them to succeed, and I'm like, unless you fail, you won't know what is success. And if you fail, you only learn.
Absolutely.
If you fail, you learn and don't do the same thing again.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, you kind of answered a question which I want to ask you, which was the definition of success, and you kind of answered that. Let me ask you this last question, Girish, which is, we are living in unprecedented times, and I've got tired of using the word unprecedented already. But hopefully sooner rather than later, we will enter a post-COVID world. And I do believe it's going to be a very different looking world, right? There's going to be a new normal, and it's good for us to accept it, new conditions. So what should one do in this lockdown to prepare themselves for a world which is uncertain? We don't have clarity what it is. What do you think one should do?
I think unprecedented is right, but at least in our lifetime, our generation. So I think this has happened across millennia, whether it's the plague or the Spanish flu or whatever. Finally, human beings bounce back, but there's a huge toll it takes. A humanitarian crisis. There's going to be rioting. There's going to be all kinds of stuff when money runs out. It's going to be a big problem. So what I believe we all have to do is we need to really gear up, like very prepared. I think number one, stay healthy. Right, and that's something that I've always told everyone in my team, in my family. Nothing to fix health itself.
Yeah.
If you're healthy, you can somehow earn, you can somehow make it. You can still go back to polishing shoes and make your living, right? But if you're unhealthy and if you're having problems, I mean, some are of course hereditary and DNA and all that. But if whatever is in your hand, please make it work. And I always tell, even my mom is 77. I tell her when she says, "Oh, I'm 77, I can't do this," which is very rare. I show her some, motivational clip of some 90-year-old running a marathon.
I'll just stop you there. Incredible Facebook post of auntie skipping on the terrace at 77. Man, that is motivation, and nobody's got a right to excuse themselves if you've seen that picture.
Yeah. So my mom does all kinds of. She's done parasailing recently. I'm planning to. This summer I was planning to take her skydiving. Oh. Right. She's 77. We call her Pocket Hercules.
Right.
So she's something like she'll not talk much and all that. She's very shy. If you tell her to ask her 2 questions in an interview, only like in the Tevar Magan movie, only air, she cannot talk. But literally, she's been the backbone and of our family, even now. And of course, we keep pulling her leg on various things. But she's traveled the world. She's seen everything. She's been to Iceland, to Egypt. She's been all over the world, literally from kind of Australia, New Zealand, till Alaska. So she's been there, done that. She's a motivation to us. And sometimes when she says, "Oh, I'm feeling tired," and we are like, "Oh, we don't believe her." Right? Like, no, you're only 77. And her aunt, just 3 weeks back, has turned 100.
Wow.
Mother's sister. So I think it's some DNA situation there. And I think their lifestyle. So we need to learn from that. So I think, like I said, post-COVID or during COVID, be really healthy, because that's the only way to fix yourself from and be immune, eat well and all that. The second thing is on skills. I think you need to learn some new skill, right? Be it a life skill, be it a vocational skill. Learn something new. Get more online, right? Get more comfortable with work from home, these kind of Zoom interactions, something more digital. A lot of businesses, like I said, anytime a business shuts, that means there's an opportunity somewhere opening up. So we need to look for those opportunities and somehow kind of go into that kind of area, right? So supposing for example, a classic example is Swiggy. They were only delivering food. Now they realize that grocery nobody's getting. So the same guy is delivering groceries now. So when you have that, like I believe there are a lot of these garment companies which are shutting down. I feel that some of them can retool to make face masks,
Yeah,
right? So there's all about retooling, reimagining what you can do with what you already have instead
yeah,
of thinking something completely new. So I think what you already have, you can use. And of course, there are a lot of opportunities going to come up. And I think once this is subsiding, which will happen over time, the whole world will come like double strong or a re-emergence never before,
right.
right?
Awesome. So great lessons, right? So stay healthy, reskill, retool, look at what's in your armory and look at how can you use that within your armory in the new conditions. And yeah, we're going to bounce back very strong. So Girish, awesome conversation. Lots of lessons. I don't know whether you realize, but you spoke about excellence, you spoke about purpose, you spoke about identifying opportunities, you spoke about have no egos about what task you want to do, right? So many lessons. It's been an awesome pleasure speaking to you, and it's been an awesome pleasure knowing you as a friend. So proud to say that the guy who runs Magzter, he's my buddy, right? So awesome to know that, right? Thank you for your time. Really appreciate this, Girish.
Thank you so much, Rajiv, and great to have friends like you. I think, like I said in the beginning, it's just what do we other than our friends.
Right.
So I think it's very important to make and keep friendships, and let's all stay healthy and stay safe.
Awesome. And do me
Thanks,
a
Rajiv.
favor, wish your mom a happy Mother's Day from my behalf.
Sure, will do.
God
Thanks
bless.
so
Bye.
much.
Take care.
Bye.